Welcome to Inside Evil Interrogations. Today, we explore the intense interview with Charles Dean Hood, a man convicted of a double homicide in 1989. Hood had been on death row since 1990, awaiting his execution for the brutal murders of Ronald Williamson and Tracy Lynn Wallace. As he sat awaiting his final days, Hood's case gained national attention for its controversial handling, including allegations of improper relationships between the judge and prosecutor. This exclusive interview takes place while Hood awaits his execution date, reflecting on his near-death experience after his execution was delayed multiple times. In this episode, we'll analyze Hood's mindset, his shifting emotions, and his reflections on life while waiting for death. We'll break down the conversation every 5 minutes, exploring the psychological toll of facing death and how Hood's demeanor reveals the complexity of his mental state. The interview opens with Hood describing his preparations for what he believed would be his execution. He reveals that he had been unable to sleep for over 24 hours, experiencing intense emotional turmoil as he contemplated his death. His faith is a recurring theme, with Hood trying to rely on his belief in God for strength. Yet, he admits to breaking down several times, overwhelmed by the gravity of his situation. The stress and anxiety are palpable, revealing the immense psychological toll that the anticipation of death takes on a person. Hood's emotional recounting of this time emphasizes the surreal and distressing nature of waiting for an execution. Welcome to Inside Evil Interrogations. Today, we explore the intense interview with Charles Dean Hood, a man convicted of a double homicide in 1989. Hood had been on death row since 1990, awaiting his execution for the brutal murders of Ronald Williamson and Tracy Lynn Wallace. As he sat awaiting his final days, Hood's case gained national attention for its controversial handling, including allegations of improper relationships between the judge and prosecutor. This exclusive interview takes place while Hood awaits his execution date, reflecting on his near-death experience after his execution was delayed multiple times. In this episode, we'll analyze Hood's mindset, his shifting emotions, and his reflections on life while waiting for death. We'll break down the conversation every 5 minutes, exploring the psychological toll of facing death and how Hood's demeanor reveals the complexity of his mental state. The interview opens with Hood describing his preparations for what he believed would be his execution. He reveals that he had been unable to sleep for over 24 hours, experiencing intense emotional turmoil as he contemplated his death. His faith is a recurring theme, with Hood trying to rely on his belief in God for strength. Yet, he admits to breaking down several times, overwhelmed by the gravity of his situation. The stress and anxiety are palpable, revealing the immense psychological toll that the anticipation of death takes on a person. Hood's emotional recounting of this time emphasizes the surreal and distressing nature of waiting for an execution.
But let me tell you something, they tried to kill me that night because they don't want that scandal to come up. They tried to kill me. And thank God that the Supreme Court waited so long. Because they ruled in 11:18. But then 11:30 showed up. I was still on the phone with my sister. And they said that was it. I gotta go. And that room filled up, man. And then that guy come back to me. He says, "Man, I'm taking you back to Plunski." I said, "Are you lying to me?" Because he never took me back the first time.
Can you just start at the beginning and talk about that? I mean, tell me, because this letter you wrote is just amazing. But like, did you sleep the night before?
Oh man, I had been up 24 hours. I mean, it was, you're in a cell that has a camera, so you have no privacy. You're trying to prepare yourself. So from 6 o'clock that night before, I was up because I listened to my shout-out show.
Yeah.
And I was able to hear my brother and them all over there. I mean, because that day I was up all day anyway, because I was out here visiting my brother and sister. And it just, my brother and sister, yeah, my brother and sister was on Monday, yeah. And we just broke down a couple of times. It just ate us, you know, I mean, nothing. I believe in God a lot, but nothing can prepare you for that over there. Nothing, man. It just takes everything out of you. Like, it drains you. It drains you physically and mentally. After that day, that night I had my shadow show, I couldn't sleep. I tried, I cried, I just tried and I tried, and I couldn't sleep. That morning I woke up, I had to get everything prepared because they picking my property up. I mean, you're so intense. I mean, hey, I didn't defecate for 2 days. You're so stressed out you can't even use the restroom. And that morning when I came out here to visit my brother and sister, my friend from Wisconsin came down, Mr. Terry. I got to see him for 2 hours.
And this was a friend of yours from a long time ago?
Yeah. He got on a train for 2 hours to come down here to see me. And it was just amazing that he would come down here for 2 hours. So I got to talk to him. My brother and my sister came back in. And then my sister and all them, my sister and brother came in. We just reminisced about old times, and it just broke down.
This is on Tuesday morning?
Yeah, Tuesday morning. Because they only let you visit for 4 hours then.
So you visited from 8 to 10 with Mr. Terry and...
I visited my brother from 8 to 10, and then my little sister came in. When they came in, my sister came in, I could just see the toll that was taken on her. And my brother, she started crying. My brother said, hey, we haven't cried up until now, and let's don't start. And we just all broke down. It just weighs heavy,
Do you visit in here?
No, on the other side over on that one little room on the other side. When you get down your last 4 days, they put you over there.
Can you contact? Do you have contact at all?
No, it's just stained glass too. You have no. It's just like I believe in God, so I just felt I was going to get a stay. But the second half I didn't prepare for. But when my sister when she started breaking down, I started crying, and my brother started crying. My brother stood up and he turned his back to me. Because I know it just weighed heavy on him. After that, he just, he wiped his tears, and we just talked some more, and my sister really broke down, and I saw the preacher man standing over there, and I waved to him, and I said, man, will you please look out for my sister? Because right towards the end, a whole bunch of officers come in, and it's like, it just puts more pressure on your family, because they're already crying, they're going to walk out here, but now you got all these people walking behind you. And I asked him, because Mr. Anderson, he's a real good guy, and I said, hey, will you please walk out, Mr. He said, yeah, no problem, I'm going to do that. So he walked out with him. I was able to see stuff I haven't seen in a long time. So I just got to see people moving around and interacting, just everyday life out there. You do stuff, just you haven't seen in a long time.
It's a pretty drive.
Oh man, I went across the bridge, I saw boats out there in the lake. I mean, it's just something you just don't see, unless you're looking at a magazine. You just don't get to experience it.
Hood discusses his interactions with family and friends who visited him. He recounts moments with his brother and sister, who are both visibly distraught. His description of his brother turning away to hide his tears and his sister's emotional breakdown highlights the collective grief experienced by his family. Hood expresses a desire to protect them from further pain, asking the preacher to escort his sister out to spare her the sight of him being led away. This need to shield his loved ones reflects a profound sense of guilt and helplessness, illustrating the broader impact of his sentence on those close to him.
Pretense of being out there like you're out there, I step out of the back, he asks me my name. They escort me in there. I go to the very back. As soon as you walk in there, dude, it's like something from a movie. It's very eerie. It's dark. The lights are dim. If you've seen the death house on TV, if you've seen it on the movie, they prepare in the death house, that's what it looks like. Something extremely scary. Something that, man, if you ain't scared, you will be scared. I don't care what kind of man you think you are. I go in there, they take the cuffs off of me. The first thing he asks me, he says, are you going to be a hard ass? Are you going to get me into trouble? I said, sir, my record speaks for myself. I don't cause trouble. He said, that's all I need to hear. I strip out again. They go through the whole process again. Once that happens, they take you over and they fingerprint you. You go through a whole set of fingerprints. Then they escort to a cell. once they put you in the cell, they hand you these clothes to wear. Then you put the clothes on. They lock the door, and then they double lock it with 2 different locks. I mean, just the first thing went in my mind, Mike, that 406 other men was in this cell. And it's just extremely eerie. I mean, you feel like you feel other people there that's not physically there. I mean, I don't believe in that, but that's what goes through your mind. Once you get dressed, the warden comes in, and a whole bunch of people. When he comes in, he tells you the protocol, and then he asks if you had any questions. I said, yes, sir. I said, if you don't mind, when I walk out of this cell, would it all right if I lay down? And he said, what do you mean? He said, I just want to lay down and y'all carry me in there. He said, whatever you want to do, Mr. Hood. Because I told him, I said, I didn't want to walk in there. I wanted to close my eyes when I lay down and go through the whole process with my eyes closed. So, I was trying to calm myself down. I talked to him. We were holding hands.
And this is the Reverend...
Mr. Lopez, yeah.
Lopez, yeah.
And then I asked, he said, do you want to use the phone? I said, yes, I really would like to call. So the first thing I did was call...
Payphone?
No,
is it
just
like
a regular phone in there.
So you can just call out anywhere?
You can just call collect. So I called to make sure that my brother and him were over to the hospitality house first. I got to speak to him for a few minutes. Then I called home. I talked to Mom and Dad for a little bit. Then I stopped them. I called my attorney. I talked to him for a little bit.
How were your parents dealing with it?
Dad wasn't dealing with it too good. I could tell in his voice that he had been crying. Mom, she was dealing with it all right. My sister Claudette, she was taking it pretty good. It was just them for a little bit, then a whole bunch of my other family started showing up. They had a bonfire beside the house, and they were just all showing up. Dad, at one point in his conversation, I heard him hand the phone over, and he said, I gotta go lay down. So I talked to Mom a little for a bit, and Claudette. We talked about everything. Just her husband got on the line. I talked to my nieces for a little bit. Everybody just trying to keep encouraging everybody, you know. And then I told her, I said, I want to call a couple of my friends. So I'll call you all back. And Mom said, please call back. Right? And right then, right around 4:30, the news came in. I gotta stay.
How'd the news come to you?
I called back. I couldn't get a hold of my attorney right then. I called back and I told my brother and sister. And all of a sudden, boom. They said, you gotta stay. And I jumped up for joy. I jumped up in that cell. I mean, I was happy. I mean, I was shaking like crazy. I mean, I was holding on to Mr. Lopez's hand. He said, man, I thank God. I said, yeah, I do too. I was just praising God.
So Lopez is on your side.
Oh, yeah. And he said, man, thank God, you know. He said, you just got to keep believing, right? And next thing you know, the phone rang. And they said, well, he said, yeah, we already know. He's yelling back here. But I was up for joy.
Yeah.
And right then it was around 5. And they said, and another bunch of officers come in and said, we're leaving. We're taking you back. I mean, my heart was beating like I ran a marathon. It was just something else, you know. I got dressed, I got undressed, went through the whole protocol, stripping out, being handcuffs on and stuff. I got in the van. I kept praising God. I was looking. I mean, every time the gate showed up behind this van, I was thinking, man, thank God, I'm leaving here. I'm leaving, man. And I get all the way to the back gate. We stop for a minute. All the officers get out. They go over and they over by this phone.
Hood vividly describes being taken to the death house, portraying the scene as eerie and movie-like. He details the process he went through, from being fingerprinted to being placed in a cell where many before him had awaited their execution. Hood's request to lie down and be carried into the execution chamber, rather than walk in, indicates his deep-seated fear and desire to minimize his active participation in his own death. His recounting of these moments paints a picture of a man grappling with his imminent death, trying to find any semblance of control or comfort in a situation designed to strip him of both.
Talking. And it didn't occur to me by the one officer. And he come back and he said, well, Hoss, I gotta take it back. I said, what's going on? And he wouldn't say nothing to me after that. Nobody, I kept asking officer, what's going on? What's going on? And then I wouldn't say nothing to me.
So this is right before the very last gate?
No, we were in the very last gate. All we were doing was waiting for those two cars to show back up.
Okay, so as soon as that last gate opens, then you're outside again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just backed up, turned all the way around, went all the way back through that maze again. I got to the back. I had to go through everything and freaking again. Now I'm just so stressed out. I kept praying to I kept saying, God, please don't let this happen. I kept saying, in the name of Jesus Christ, don't let this happen, please. Don't let these people rescue me. I was shaking like crazy then. I got back in there, went through the whole, they put me back in the cell. I waited a few minutes, Mr. Lopez showed back up. I could see the distraught, his face was distraught. I mean, he didn't know what was going on either. I said, sir, I need to call my attorney. And I could tell it was weighing heavy on him then, because Mr. Lopez sat down and started reading his Bible. And I talked to my attorney. My attorney said, I don't know what's going on, Hood. You still have a stay. I don't know what's going on. And he said, well, the judge recused himself. The DA filed to the CCA, and they refused it, the mandamus, to take away the mandamus. So I said, please keep me online. If you need to talk to somebody, please use the other line. He said, all right. So he's on the computer. We're talking. I'm stressing out. I'm really stressing big time because he can't find out what's going on. All he can tell me is what Greg told him. He said, hey, the judge recused himself. I said, well, if he recused himself, then I've got to stay. They can't take it from me. He says, well, now this is like at 6 o'clock now. So he says, well, sometimes the judge, the prosecutor will file to try to get another judge. I basically fell out. I fell back down on my knees, and I was saying, God, please don't let this happen. And I said, Mr. Ellis, please don't let them kill me. He said, we're filing to go back and forth right now. Greg's on it, don't worry. The resource center is helping. Don't worry, we're doing everything we can. And it was just a flurry of appeals being filed back and forth. And the judges are not trying to hear the issue. They keep turning my attorney down on procedural about him not signing the piece of paper and just mediocre stuff and not dealing with the issue. And he told me, he said, well, the judge, the CCA George, ordered the lower judge to revoke the stay. And she's not allowed to do that. She's not allowed to influence another judge. And I said, Mr. Ellis, they're trying to kill me. They don't want this to come out. They're just trying to, say the heck with the laws, the heck with their oath that they took. That's their colleague, their friend. So they're going to look out for it. They're just going to kill me. He said, yeah, that's what it seems. That's what it seems like. He said, don't give up. Don't give up. I said, Mom, I'm going to call my attorney and see what's going on. So I called him again.
Did you tell anybody? Did you say, if this goes to 12, then I'm all right?
No.
Did people know that?
No, I didn't want to.
Didn't want to queer it.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to think about that.
Right.
Because when I called Mr. Ellis, no, matter of fact, he called me. He called on the line. He said, hey, the Supreme Court just turned you down. And he said, I tell you what kind of attorney I got. He said, is the warden standing there? I said, yeah. He says, please let me talk to him. And there's no doubt in my mind, when I hand the phone over to him, he said, please don't execute him. I got some more things. There's no doubt in my mind, that's what he said. He said, hey, I'm filing some more stuff. Can you please hold on? I just know that's what he said. That's the kind of attorney he is. He cares about me. He believes in me. And, I said, please, can I stay online with you? And then, at 11:20 or something like that, the room filled up and the officer says, you got to put the phone down. I said, please, hang on a second. I said, Mr. Ellis, he says, Charles, I tried everything I could. I could tell he was crying. And, I said, don't worry. I said, I'm going to call my sister real quick, all right? And he said, okay. So when the officer moved, I asked Lopez, I said, please call real quick to my sister. And I told Cheryl, I said, hey, Cheryl, I feel Jesus here. And I love you. I got to go. Jesus is here to pick me up. And she started crying like crazy. And I said, don't worry, I love you. And I hung up the phone, I was saying, man, a calmness come over me. It was just complete calmness. I mean, I stopped shaking and everything, Miss Lopez was on me, and I get the phone up and I said, man, Jesus is here. I mean, the room is filled with a whole bunch of people.
In the final minutes of the interview, Hood talks about receiving the news of his stay of execution. His reaction is one of immense relief and emotional release. he describes jumping for joy and praising God, showing a sudden and intense shift from despair to hope. The emotional roller coaster he endured that day, from preparing for death to being granted a reprieve, captures the psychological extremes experienced by those on death row. The relief, however, is tempered by the ongoing uncertainty of his fate, reflecting the cruel and taxing nature of living under a death sentence.
I said, man, I'm saying this out loud. So everybody came out and said, Jesus is here. And he says, man, I know. I mean, he felt the presence of the Lord there. So at that time, man, I didn't care. I said, man, we'll go home. That one guy that had escorted me from here over there, he came in and he says, Hood, in 30 minutes I'm taking you back to Plunski. I said, you're lying to me. He said, no, I don't lie like that, Hood.
But now, what time was this when you...
This was a little bit after 11:30 then. And he said, I don't lie. And man, I fell to my knees. I was standing up and my knees buckled and I fell to my knees and I was crying like a baby. I kept my hand holding on to Mr. Lopez and I was crying like a baby. And I was just saying, thank God and everything. Because the whole time I just felt like I wasn't living anymore. I was just existing. And when I got back in the view of the lights of this unit at nighttime, I was like, man, thank God, No man, no matter if he's good or innocent, shouldn't have to go through that over there. Because it did. It takes a toll on everybody. It is. It really just takes everything out of you. I mean, you feel like you ain't alive anymore anyway. And then have to go through it twice in one day. And I heard there's nobody else that's done that before.
Do you have any messages for your brother or for Ellis?
Hey, first off, just keep the faith, Mr. Ellis. Just keep working on me. You're a heck of an attorney. I don't care if they do kill me. You're a fighter, It's Mr. Gregg, and the other people. Don't listen to nobody what it says. Just keep fighting, To my brother, I love you more than words, man. Hey, I'd give my life for you any day. Just keep walking by faith. And I love you.
This interview with Charles Dean Hood provides a stark, intimate look at the psychological and emotional realities faced by death row inmates. The anticipation of execution, combined with last-minute reprieves, creates a deeply traumatic experience that affects not just the condemned individual, but their entire family. Hood's account is a powerful testament to the emotional and mental anguish that accompanies the death penalty, offering insights into the profound effects of living with the constant threat of execution. Stay tuned to Inside Evil Interrogations for more forensic analyses of criminal minds and the psychological journeys of those awaiting justice.